Hello, my name is Katie Zingg. I'm the Associate Athletic Director for Compliance at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and I'd like to share information on the NCAA and NAIA initial eligibility requirements, as well as a few recruiting rules for any prospective student athletes looking to potentially continue their athletic career in college. So today we're going to go over some basic Division 1, 2, and 3 eligibility requirements, and also some general information for the NAIA. And as I said, a few recruiting rules in there as well. We'll start with the NCAA. The big thing for anyone looking to go to Division 1 or Division 2 is to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. The Eligibility Center determines a student's academic and amateurism eligibility. It is only for Division 1 and Division 2. If a student is interested in going to a Division 3 school, they do not need to register. There is no deadline to register. However, a student must be registered before they can take an official visit to a Division 1 or Division 2 school, or before they can receive a written offer of athletics aid. It is a one-time registration fee, so if you register as a freshman, sophomore, whatever, and you're not getting your certification until your senior year, your fee doesn't change. It's just the one-time fee of $90. Once you're registered, first thing to do is have an official transcript sent to the Eligibility Center. The transcript does have to be official. There's a couple ways that your high school can send it to the Eligibility Center, depending on how the high school works with electronic transcripts. You can have that requested and sent directly there. The next step is to have any test scores sent to the Eligibility Center. The test scores have to be sent directly from either ACT or SAT. If they're included on the official high school transcript, the Eligibility Center will not count them. I will note, while I'm talking about the test scores for enrollment period of 2022 to 2023, so next academic year, the NCAA has already announced that they will be waiving the requirement for test scores due to the pandemic and having some limited access to test scores. So I'll still include all of the information because it is still technically in the rule. But for now, for next year, so if you're currently a senior, that test score is not required. I would advise anyone in future years, so the class of 2023, 2024, and so on, you should still plan to take the exam and get those test scores on your academic record. Then there's really not much to do until your senior year. At that point, starting April 1st, you'll request your final amateurism. And then upon graduation, you'll have your last final high school transcript sent to the Eligibility Center with that graduation date included. So we'll go into some of the academic eligibility requirements for Division 1. Divisions 1, 2, and 3 are different. However, there's a lot of similarities between Division 1 and Division 2. Basically, for Division 1, there's 4 main requirements. You have to graduate from high school, complete 16 core courses, earn a minimum GPA in those 16 core courses, and then earn a minimum SAT or SAT score that matches whatever your GPA is in those core courses. So that first requirement, graduation, it's just that. You just have to graduate based on your high school / state requirements. The NCAA doesn't care, essentially, what the definition of graduation is, just as long as you are graduating. And generally, they do expect you to graduate within 4 years of the initial start of 9th grade. That second step, completing 16 core courses. For Division 1, it's broken down like this: 4 years of English, 3 math, 2 years of a natural or physical science, 1 year extra of any of those, 2 years of social science, and then 4 years of anything of those above listed categories, or a foreign language or a comparative religion or philosophy. Generally, only courses are completed in grades 9 through 12 are included in the 16 core courses. There are some rare instances that courses from 8th grade could be included, but that's something you would want to talk to your high school about. Courses have to be included on your high school's list of approved core courses, which your high school can provide you or you can find on the Eligibility Center's website. A student can earn up to one course after graduation to meet those 16 core courses or to improve GPA. That course has a lot of different options. If that's something that you're needing, I highly suggest getting in contact with the compliance office at the institution you plan to attend, and they can advise you on your best options. Repeated courses are only counted once, and one semester is a half core course. So when we talk about 4 years of English, it's actually 8 semesters in order to get to those 4 core courses. Additionally, there is a 10-7 rule. Students have to complete 10 of their core courses, so 10 of the total 16, before they start the senior year. 7 of those 10 have to be in English, math, or natural and physical science, and courses can be earned in summer school prior to the start of the senior year. So those 10 go all the way until that very start of the senior year. Then our third step, or our third requirement, is to earn a minimum GPA in the 16 core courses, which is a 2.3. Only the best grades are used, and it's calculated on a 4.0 scale, but the NCAA will take out pluses and minuses. So if you have a B plus, it counts as a B as the NCAA recalculates your GPA. Your best 10 grades earned in the first 6 semesters are locked in. So those can't be replaced by courses that you take in your senior year or the one course after graduation. Fourth requirement, the SAT or ACT, sum score has to match the core course GPA on the NCAA sliding scale. The writing component of both tests are not included in the NCAA's assessment. But keep in mind that in a college, for admissions purposes, may still require that. So it's really important to know that eligibility and admissions are 2 very different things that can have very different requirements. You can be eligible to attend a school, but not admitted, and vice versa. So it's important that you're familiarizing yourself with your institution's admissions rules as well as your eligibility rules. Again, like I mentioned, for 22-23, the NCAA is not requiring test scores, but a college might still be requiring them for admissions. So important to find that out. You can take the test as many times as you want. You can take both the ACT and SAT, or one or the other. It doesn't matter. The Eligibility Center will use the best sub-score from each test to get you what is called a super score. So in the example here, a student took the exam twice, better reading and writing the second time, better math the first time. So the NCAA will actually take those 2 highest scores to calculate their sum score. Then that sum score is converted onto the sliding scale. Obviously, this is a much condensed version. Usually the 2.3 GPA, obviously the lower the GPA, the higher the test score, and vice versa. And then that shaded area I'll talk about here with an academic red shirt. So what we just went over, those 4 requirements, if student meets them, they're fully eligible for everything at a Division I institution starting with their freshman year. But to be what's called an academic red shirt, this is a student that's eligible for practice and can receive athletics financial aid. They just can't compete. In a student in that scenario graduated, they earned their 16 core courses, but that third requirement, their GPA fell between a 2.0 and a 2.29. As long as their GPA is still matching on the test score, so that shaded part of the sliding scale, then they are an academic red shirt. There are some additional higher academic standards once the student enrolls, but they do still have their full 4 years of eligibility remaining. It's just that first year is a little altered. So that summed up Division I. You'll see Division II pretty similar. Same 4 requirements. 2 of them are just altered a little bit. So still graduate from high school. That second requirement of the 16 core courses, the 16 are just changed a little bit. So easiest example, 4 years of English for Division I, only 3 for Division II. but then they make up for it in the additional categories of where you can plug in those extra classes. The GPA is just a little bit lower. It's a 2.2 GPA in the core courses. And then Division II also has a sliding scale, but it's a little bit different, obviously because of their lower GPA. But the sliding scale concept is still there. In Division II, there's what's called a partial qualifier. So again, if you meet all 4 of the requirements, great, you're eligible for everything. But in some circumstances, if a student doesn't meet all 4, but has the combined ACT or SAT plus the GPA of a 2.0, then they're what's called a partial qualifier. They can practice and receive athletics financial aid during their first year. They just can't compete. So Division III is very easy. There aren't any NCAA eligibility requirements. All the student has to do is meet the Division III school's admissions requirements to be eligible at that school. As I mentioned before, a Division III student does not have to use the Eligibility Center. You can register if you wanted to, but it's not required. And students should really focus questions towards Division III or towards their institution at Division III regarding questions for admissions, financial aid, practice, and competition. The biggest difference between Divisions I and II and Division III is that Division III does not offer athletic scholarships. It is academic and need-based aid only. So that summed up our academic requirements. We'll try to do a little bit of a quick hit of Division I recruiting. Basically when, how often, and how coaches are contacting prospective student athletes and their parents in Division I is completely dependent upon the sport. It's really complicated. I don't know why, but I'll have a chart here in a second so you can see kind of how it breaks down. Prospective students can always call or email an athletic department staff member at any time. Just know that that staff member may not be able to actually answer the call or chat with you or return the call or email until that first permissible date. As a general note, most communications start somewhere around the junior year. Some of those dates kind of are moved up just a little bit, or maybe a week after, kind of depending on what sport. So as you can see here, broken down by sport, the correspondent/private messages, that would include emails, text messages, and any type of messaging through social media. And then some sports have an incoming phone call rule, some don't. And then outgoing phone calls, every sport has a start date for those. There's also the rules regarding the visits. An unofficial visit is one in which the prospective student athlete funds entirely on their own. An official visit is one in which the institution pays all or part of the expenses for the student to come to campus. As you can see, again, based different for each sport. So you can kind of see when you can start communicating and when that coach can respond. Division II is a lot easier. It's the same for all sports. June 15th, after the student's sophomore year, is really kind of that gateway to any of our recruiting communications and visits. Division III, also the same all across the board, but as far as phone calls, text messages, and emails, they can just start when the student starts their freshman year of high school. And then off-campus contacts and official visits generally start after the sophomore year or they're partway through the junior year. Some helpful information, the Eligibility Center's website is stocked full of great resources. So www.eligibilitycenter.org, there's all sorts of information there. The NCAA's main website was just redesigned, also has some really great resources there. That guide for the college-bound student athlete can really really outline kind of those first recruiting steps, those first eligibility steps, and things that you can do during your high school years. So that wraps up our NCAA portion. So real quick hitters on the NAIA. NAIA, if you're not familiar, it's an Intercollegiate Athletics Association, very similar to the NCAA. They offer most of your mainstream sports, including some emerging sports, and they have, I think, 2 institutions in Canada, and then they're all throughout the US. One of the misnomers about NAIA is that they don't offer athletic scholarships, but they actually do. So you can receive an athletic scholarship to an NAIA school similar to the NCAA Division I and Division II. Academic eligibility for the NAIA, they also have an eligibility center. Works very similar to the NCAA's, but it actually has an extra feature. Once you register with them and work on your academic side, there is actually a recruiting feature to the NAIA's eligibility center. The NCAA does not have that, but it is one of the benefits for NAIA. You do have to receive an academic certification. There is also a competitive history component to their certification as well. Similar to the NCAA, sending high school transcripts and test scores works the same way. Academic eligibility is pretty straightforward. You just have to graduate and then meet 2 of these 3 requirements. So it's either that minimum test score, minimum GPA, or the class rank. There's no core course requirement or recalculation of a GPA. It's just straightforward, straight off of the test score and transcript. There's some great NAIA resources out on their website as well. Their main website of naia.org, and then their eligibility center is that playnaia.org. Great information out there to get started even before you register and pay the fee. All sorts of information out there for you to access. They also have a guide for the college-bound student athlete going to an NAIA school that is very helpful as well. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your guidance counselor, and they will be happy to help you as they can. Have a great day.